When we talk about childhood, school, it is hard to be opinionless about the theme. Because when I even talk about childhood, a Pandora box of memories opens up before us all. And even as I'm speaking about school, I'm damn sure that in all of our heads, some image must have conjured of the examinations, classes missed, classes bunked, the first crush, the teacher student interaction, and a lot more. Well, to crack open the world of school memories further, we have a very distinguished guest with us, Mr. Ajay Jain, who is the founder of Kunzum Bookstore, the very brand we are having behind us and where we are actually gathered today. Ajay Jain, sir, has been author of 11 books which are printed and more than 50 ebooks. He has been an ardent traveler because the evidence is all splittered around us. You can see the images put up from his travel journeys, the books which are around in the store, speaking of the extensive travel he has taken for himself. Sir, by professional qualification, happens to be an engineer and an MBA and has found his way into the domain of literature as well. It's indeed a pleasure to have you with us, sir. And to crack open the conversation, I just have this curiosity in my head that after writing on travel and venturing into even fiction, then how did you come to writing a memoir and that also on school days?
Well, firstly, thank you for having me over. It's a delight meeting you and everyone in this room. And I love interacting with young people because that's the only way I stay young. You know, yeah.
Yes.
So in fact, I cannot relate to people of my age, right? I find them, kind of very insipid and boring. So I hang around with young people. Yeah. So bear with me. So
Lovely.
yeah. So the thing is, I have a certain outlook in life, which is that uh, just because you are good at something or you're successful at something, like you don't have to keep doing it all your life,
Yeah.
right? So if I done IT and sports management earlier, if I was working as a journalist, if I was doing travel writing, it doesn't mean that I just keep doing one of these all my life. And even as a writer, as a journalist, I was actually trained that to research on different subjects, because on a daily basis we are doing different kinds of stories. When I was working for a business newspaper, like one day I was covering pharmaceuticals, the next day I was covering IT, the third day I was covering maybe some other sector, and with little knowledge of that sector, like we were taught how to kind of quickly research and then dive deep. So that's why even in my writing, I cover different genres, like you mentioned. I've done books on management or marketing, fiction, coffee table book, my travel, of course, and now this memo was actually a long time coming. I wanted to write a book based on my school. I and I was actually trying to write this book since 2010. And somehow, it was not falling in place. Then I would drop it for a long time. Then I would revisit it, and somehow the format and the structure was not falling in place. And then last year, twice in close succession, I had to go to the school for various reasons, and I was overcome with emotion. And one of them was the memorial service of a very beloved headmaster of ours, brother Eric D'Souza. And then I was like listening to all the students, paying the tributes to him. And somewhere sitting over there, it clicked in my mind that I need to write this book, write it from my heart, write about everything that the school was about, but write it in a way that kind of is also kind of fun and endearing for my readers. So I kind of made it very anecdotal, but I also made it very reflective. So in a way, the book actually moves back and forth in time. Like the me in school is narrating anecdotes of that time, and the me of now is actually reflecting and kind of giving commentary on how the then and now, the values, the education, the teachers, everything. Yeah.
Wow, I sense that to be a medley of Ajay Jain as a kid interacting with Ajay Jain as a grown up, if I can sense that to be.
Yeah, in a way, yes, actually. And there's actually like, I don't want to give it away, but there is an element in the book which is exactly what you said.
Oh my God. Okay. We won't split it
Yeah,
further then. We'll contain the conversation there and hold that
yeah,
Charlie to speak it for itself.
yeah,
Just talking about Charlie, then it's a very fascinating title and a cover. I mean, we say that we should not judge a book by its cover, but I have for myself a fair share of excitement. Like, why is this about Charlie? Of course, book will have the answer, but if you can tell us something about the cover too, because I sense report cards, measures, and all. So, is there some reservation against the report cards or some memories, or what about the title do you have to bequeath with us?
So I won't tell you like where Charlie came from. For
Mm-hmm.
that, you have to read in the book and discover for yourself,
Yeah.
right? But it was, to the designer Gunjan Alawa, to his credit, that he like, of course, he had taken all the stuff from me. He had taken photographs and stuff like that, and then he came up with his idea, right? A part of it is my class 11 photograph.
Okay.
So we've actually cropped it, so it's not the full batch. It's like approximately half of us in this photograph that you see, and the teacher sitting right in the middle. His name is Brother DC. He's an Irish brother. He's currently living in Ireland, and he's 100 plus,
Oh my
right?
God.
And I discovered that he's still around when I was researching the book,
Lovely.
right? And this little report card kind of a thing you see, it's a mock-up of the character certificate that we were given when we were leaving school, and we were like, so like, wow, like what will our character certificate say? But after school, nobody even looked at it, whether it was for your admissions, whether no matter where you went for your job, for admissions, nobody cared. But for us, what the character certificate said was so important when you were leaving school.
Yeah, I second you on that. The character certificate was the person has been the most disciplined, focused, and
Yeah.
all. May in the classroom we would have been the otherwise. So this brings me to a question. Like you're talking so fondly about the memories that how were you as a kid, and how does that share hold up in your personal life? Like today you are experimenting, trying different things. Were you just as experimental as today you were there in your school days, or is there a change that you've seen over you?
So if I look back when I was in school, I was absolutely a non-entity,
Same. I second you on that.
right? Because I didn't make it to any sports teams.
Mhm.
I didn't make it to the debating team. I didn't make it to the quizzing team. I didn't make it to the singing team. You name it, I didn't make it anywhere. I
So
wanted
feel you.
to, right? But I never got the opportunity. And uh, and I don't know if it happens in all schools, but to a great extent, it happened in our school. Like
Mhm.
right from junior school to senior school,
Mhm.
right? There was a bunch of boys who would actually get all the opportunities every year,
Oh
year
my
on year,
God, why not? Yes. Yes.
right? It's not, I think it's not so much about
Yeah.
favorites. It's just because their talent was kind of maybe identified early on.
Earlier, yeah.
So they got the boost, they got then the more exposure, then they got only better. And those of us who didn't do it,
Mm-hmm.
like we never, so no, they were also not formally trained, right?
Mm.
But they just kind of kept getting better because every year they were doing the same thing.
Correct.
And when
Yeah.
we would be auditioning, right, and suddenly we would, like, nothing was coming out of it, right?
We were
Because
at level 1 and they were like level 10 before we
yeah,
got in.
yeah. So I think the hierarchy, but this is what I, like I tell my kids, for example. Now most of them, right, the so-called cool boys, the really the hype boys, the guys who were, like, winning all the medals, they were winning all the trophies, they were winning all the honors,
Yeah.
right? Something happened to them after school, and they became absolutely just, well, nerdy or career oriented or money oriented. And today if I meet them, I said, like, hello, like, I thought you guys would become famous journalists or artists and photographers
True.
and travelers and stuff like that. But somebody sitting, in a university, doing some research, somebody's running an IT company, somebody's working for Microsoft. I said, how boring is that? And now those same boys I used to look up to, like, I'm not trying to be boastful here, but they're saying, like, Ajay, wow, like, look at the stuff you're doing. I said, but you guys are the original.
That's true. The originals are there.
Yeah. So actually when I entered college, Delhi College of Engineering, that's when I started doing all this stuff,
Mhm.
because there actually, now, compared to a school like St. Columbus, a place like Delhi College of Engineering was culturally and extracurricular
Mhm.
wise was
Yeah.
absolutely like a barren land. So for
Mhm.
me, I kind of, it's like an explorer going, right? And they see this huge vast of land, there's nobody there, and they, plant a flag, okay, this is
Mhm.
mine.
Yeah.
So I went there, I kind of started the college magazine there. I revived the cultural society. We started doing events and stuff like that. So all the things I could not do in school, I started doing in college. And then one thing led to another, and so I took this path, and this is where I am.
Wow. That's splendid. I think that deserves a applause from our end. As you were speaking, actually, I was just revisiting the very visuals of my school days because I remember fondly, like when I was a girl myself, I was totally shy and I did anything but speaking. And when I entered college, I do anything but only speaking. So that was a 360-degree change I saw in myself. And that's what I just wanted to dig in further with you. Like, there are so many people, like our community at Skill Aid Empower India Foundation. We are all about providing that space to people to become who they have not gotten a chance before. So, how do you think that change came into you when you entered into this college versus the school life? And how did you gather that courage to maybe take that first step to become and change the person you were there, perhaps?
So I think one was that that latent desire, right, for the first almost 18 years of my life in school, that hey, I also want to be at the forefront of all these creative and extracurricular activities. So there was that that desire to do something. Of course, that desire is not there in everyone, because a lot of my friends and batchmates and all, they did nothing like me in school. They did nothing in college, and they did nothing in life except follow the routine path. I think what you guys have to understand, since I'm addressing young people, right? Like, don't believe the elders. I'm telling you, they will mislead you.
I second you in a way.
Right? Right? Yeah. I think there are just a few things you need to keep in mind, right? The first thing you need to focus on is your health, right? All of you, no matter how, see, when we are young, we have all the energy, but don't take it for granted, right? Focus on your health, like at least a moderate level of physical activity, what you eat, what you drink, things like that. Be a little careful of that, especially in these polluted times we live. That's the only way you're going to kind of build immunity and, kind of, maintain a certain level of youth long term. Number two, when it comes to, things like career and money and all, right? Don't spend 40 years of your life just to become the CEO one day. Seriously, like, okay, you're going to go on and on. Okay, today I'm starting as a management trainee, then I'm going to become, whatever, executive, then assistant manager, GM, blah, blah, blah. And one day I'm going to be a CEO at whatever, 45, 50, 55, right? So for 30, 40 years, you're just building towards that. But you could have done so much more. So when it comes to finances and career planning, I always say, don't be reckless. I'm not saying you have to be one of those jhola walas or you have to be like one of those sadhus or something. I'm saying maintain a balance. Just say, okay, I should aspire to earn so much. Out of this, I should aspire to save so much for the long term, right? And maintain a certain lifestyle. Like, don't be kind of besotted ki, I need to have this car, I need to have this house. It's not so important. Have a nice house, have a nice car. Like, you don't need a kind of a grand wedding. Why waste money on that one evening when nobody even cares? Save all that money. Save, tell your parents, give me that money if you have extra money. Put that in a bank. That's your security. Because when you have financial security, you can do so much more, right? If at 31, I went back to school to study journalism in the UK, right? Because I'd already built a little kind of a security nest. But if I had to pay my monthly bills even at 31, I couldn't have taken that chance, right? And then I came back and worked for the Express Group. At 32, with all my qualifications and experience, I was a junior most reporter, but that's where I was learning. And that's the next thing you need to do. Always, always stay a student all your life. Keep learning, keep evolving. Don't get stuck where you are. And it is all right to change tracks. Whether it's your career choices, whether it's something different you want to do, even it's your personal relationships, it's all right, because the only person who matters, the only person you are answerable to is you. Please do not live for the world. Be nice to them. Be a nice person to know, right? But don't live for them, right? Eventually, what's going to happen, this is what I tell everyone. I said, look, when me and people around me, we are going to be in our 70s and 80s, we're going to be sitting in a chair, like not moving around much, maybe in our 90s, right? like, what will it matter how much bank balance somebody has, how many houses they have? But what you can't take away, right, is stories. So make your life full of stories, live those stories so you have stories to narrate, right? If you've invited me here, it's because I have stories to narrate.
Indeed, yeah.
Right? You don't need, like, if I was one of those sharks on that Shark Tank program, right, I might not be here, right? So those sharks are not your role models. The only role model you should have is the person you see in the mirror. Period.
Wow, that's amazingly said.
So, yeah.
That's beautifully put, indeed, that you are your own role model, and if you set someone else as a role model, then the biggest injustice you do is to, I think, yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like, just ask yourself, am I the kind of person who I would like to go out on a date with?
Yeah, that's a very reflective question, perhaps. Am I the right person to be with someone? Because we often think that
Yeah.
the richest place, I believe, and I've read so many times, is the graveyard, because so many bedded dreams just die with the person and the body.
But here's the caveat,
Mhm.
right? No matter what you do, right? Passion and whims are cheap. They are available for free. There, you can be passionate about climbing the Mount Everest. You can be passionate about going on a world trip. You can be passionate about becoming an author, no matter what,
Mm.
right? That's easy. उसमें क्या है, फ्री में मिलता है, कितना मर्जी passion ले लो. However, whatever you choose to do, you have to be good at it, which means you have to learn, you have to study that, right? Then you have to be persistent, you have to be determined, you have to kind of put in that diligence, that hard work, right? If I moved from IT to sports management to journalism to writing books to photography to running a bookstore, right? At each stage, I allowed myself to learn. Again, I'm not trying to boast here, right? But if I did not learn, again, you would not have me on the show.
Agreed. Yeah.
Right? So you have to learn, you have to be good. It doesn't mean that everybody's good at everything. Just because you don't have the aptitude for mathematics doesn't mean you have to be good at mathematics. You could be good at something else, right? But yeah, so if you, like, that's why I'm saying, stay in a student mode and come out tops in whatever you choose to.
Lovely. That's very well put. I mean, that zeal without direction is like not having any direction to the where you're sailing through.
Yeah, it's like,
Exactly.
I always say that, passion without all the hard work and all the learning and all is like smoke without fire, right? There's a lot
Completely.
of smoke, but is there a fire below? Nothing.
Nothing. Completely true. And I think that's a wealth of insights for our community to follow, because there are so many of us who are aspiring writers, authors, public speakers. They
Yeah.
all want to do something out of it. But what they have is the right place. Of course, they have come. The passion, now the need is the direction and the right way to move forward.
Yeah, because we're talking about skills here,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, we live in a country where you can get away with mediocrity, right? Because there's a dearth of employable people, right? Almost everyone gets a job, right? If if you have even a certain level of education and competence, you get a job, but you don't grow, the company doesn't grow, your employers don't grow, whatever you're doing doesn't grow, whether it's a non-profit or a for-profit, right? That growth is not happening, right? But so just because, like, I can tell you, just by seeing you, I can tell you that all of you, if you go out, you will get a job, right? Like, your partners, whoever you choose in life, will get a job. Between the two of you, you will earn enough to probably have like a nice little house. You pay your EMIs. When you have kids, you'll pay for the school education. You'll keep getting your increments. Life will be okay, right? But that doesn't mean it's going to be absolutely thrilling, because then one day, you'll be thinking that, we saw these two people on the stage, we want to be like them, but how do we be like them, right? For that, you have to be innovative. You have to keep innovating your life.
Lovely. That's again very well put. I mean, that nuggets of insight in every layer that I am interacting with you. And it's the choice between mediocrity and choosing the life you want for yourself.
Absolutely.
Lovely. And I take a detour from the conversation because the curious cat in me is just wondering about this one question. St. Columba School was right opposite to my school, that is St. Thomas's.
Okay.
So I always regret to going to an all-girls school. Because I won't ever recommend to anyone that you choose a same gender or same sex schools. And I have continued that legacy through my bachelor's, master's, and this continued for me for entire life. But how was it for you? How do you think that going to a all same gender school worked for you, did not work for you, or any insights on that?
Well, it was a very frustrating experience. Surrounded by 3,250 boys is not an easy world to live in. However, so at that time, see, thing is, when you are like, when you're young, you're teenagers, right? Right? And, you've got like all kinds of hormones and, extra supply, right? And you said, you start thinking like, what the hell am I doing here? Surrounded by boys, or, I want to be interacting with girls. Most of us didn't get at that time. See, it was a very different world at that time. It was a very conservative world. So while
Agreed.
like some of the boys, right, they had girlfriends or they were interacting with girls, most of us didn't know a girl. Forget having a girlfriend. We didn't know a girl, right? There was a convent of Jesus and Mary right next to us. There was a St. Thomas nearby, and there was these so-called other sister schools like Loreto Convent and
Yeah,
Carmel Convent and all, but nothing was happening.
nothing was happening.
On hindsight, right, I would not choose to be anywhere else,
Hmm.
right, except that institution called St. Columba's School. And I think uh, on a lighter note, I can always say, in a way, it was good because all the complications that come with interacting with the opposite sex, happened later.
That's completely true. Like even if I were to like revise, maybe not, but yeah, they shaped us for the best who we are in
Yeah.
terms of the pedigree. Lovely. And talking about again the skills and the other aspect, when public speaking comes to the foray, I believe that there is a lot much exchange between writing and speaking. And you yourself have been a trainer, have been going for public speaking, TEDx and all. So how much share do you think speaking and writing have had for you? And if any nuggets of insights, because many people came down today in a bookstore, they were aspiring authors, writers, and they want to be, if no less than you. So any advice on a closing note for us, and then we can open to the audience.
So the 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 there are there's only just one magical thing on this earth, which is words on paper, which means that whatever you do, whether you are writing or you are reading, right, it has to be words on paper, right? When I write a book, I first scope it out in longhand on multiple sheets of paper. So that's the only way I get thinking. Then I transcribe it, expand it, improve it, modify it, edit it. I do all that later. But that initial thought process, that initial structure, it only comes when I write it down, right? And we grew up like our training, our conditioning was everything was on paper. And one of the things I keep telling school management, school principals, teachers, throw every screen out of the school,
Hmm.
right? Because the
Totally.
people who are the leaders today, who are inventing, developing, running businesses, doing important stuff, they're all in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and when they were in school, there were no computers, right?
Indeed.
So why do we need them now, right? So the only way, like the thing is, what happens is when you are all your reading and writing and all your all the stuff that you do is words on paper, then the way you think changes.
Hmm.
You Google for it, and now you can do Perplexity for it. You can do whatever,
Chat GPT.
ChatGPT it for it, whatever the words for them are now, right? You
Hmm.
can, and you'll get so much data on the value of words on paper, which means that even if you're writing notes, don't write them on your notes app on the phone. Write them, carry notebooks, carry pieces of paper, carry pens, carry pencils, write them down, keep writing, everyday journal. Then your mind starts getting shaped in a certain way. When it gets starts shaping in a certain way, that's when you get creative, that's when you get ideas, and that's when you take the stage, right? You speak with more coherence because your brain is developed differently.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you'll just be dependent on gadgets, and your is going to be all fuzzy up here. It's like we talk about the cloud up there. Your brains are going to, it's the brains that are clouded. So yeah, so just paper, pen, uh, and words on paper. That's it.
Very well said. I mean, no better place to celebrate the power of pen and a paper than in a bookstore,
Absolutely.
where the power of print media is alive and breathing and just inviting us to maybe take that plunge for ourselves too.
Absolutely.
Lovely. On that note, I'll just take a break and invite any questions or any curiosities that you have for Sir to attend to anyone, any questions, please. Oh. Mhm.
So there's a longer story. We'll keep it like off camera for another time. But Kunzum is actually a place in Spiti. It's a high altitude pass. And when I started travel writing in 2007, that region was the first region I covered. And when I discovered the spot Kunzum for myself, I came back and called my blog kunzum.com, right? And then I set up this place in Hoskas Village called the Kunzum Travel Cafe, which now has become Kunzum the bookstores. So the origin of the word Kunzum comes from Spiti, which I use for my blog initially.
Lovely. I think I read the story on the website too, and it just inspired me that even I'll sometime name a book after a pinnacle point in life
Absolutely,
when you have the adrenaline and the rush that you experience.
absolutely, do that. Yeah, yeah.
Lovely. Any other questions that we have from the crowd? Mhm.
Two things. When I decided to set up bookstores, I thought, let me set up 100 bookstores. 100 bookstores means that every book I write will become a bestseller because I'll sell enough books in my own bookstore. That's another point that after I set up the initial store, I said, like, let's stay boutique and but more importantly, I just felt that in this day and age, right, we need kind of cultural oases, places where people can, come, they can relax, they can feel, kind of feel calm. So we need bookstores like Kunzum, right? And I decided to do that, right? I understand that it wasn't purely driven by business logic, but if we only do things by business logic, right, all of us would be running an AI company right now.
True that. I think that even being in Kunzum bookstore is an experience.
Yeah, so that's the
Yeah.
idea. Yeah,
Because we see like bookstores are often places where you shop a book and take it back in a very shopping style. But here we have a sitting space. We can
absolutely,
melt down with a book, use it with our time, and then maybe make a choice after that.
absolutely.
I think the idea is surviving really well. And any other question? Yeah. Legit.
I started my career in IT. A lot of my classmates did. We were the first set of school students in the country who were taught computer programming
Oh.
in the early to mid 80s,
Mhm.
right? No other students had been taught programming like we had. The scary part would have been, right, if like my friends and batchmates, I was still in IT, right? When I interact with them now, I don't know what to talk to them. They're doing very well for themselves, right? They had fancy houses and cars and everything much before I did, right?
Mhm.
But like if I think about it, imagine if I'd stayed in IT, right? Again, like I said, we would not be here having this conversation. So the scary part is staying where you are and not moving away. So we are meant, like, the thing is, everything is so, like, everything's a transition, right? Our being born, right, and being here for an X amount of time and then disappearing, right? That also, so it's a transition, right? So we were not born to just stay in one place. And like I said, what I said earlier, uh, like, keep an eye on your finances, right? Don't take on liabilities you cannot service, right? Maintain good health, right? And be a nice person to know, and then enjoy life. Keep experimenting.
Lovely. I think that's a punchline I would take for myself. Keep experimenting, and ultimately, the stories that come
Yeah,
with us.
absolutely.
True. Like, we can have one more question from the audience if there is any.
Yeah, sure.
Please. Mm.
I think it's happened. See, like in when I was 31, right? Suddenly I woke up and one day and said, okay, I'm going to study journalism, right? No logic, no plan, right? And why? Because sometime, somewhere when I was in school, a thought had come to my mind that I want to be a journalist. And immediately it was rubbish down, ki, what a seedy profession that is. It's like all nefarious characters become journalists and all that stuff, right? So, but I said, look, I'm going to become
Yeah.
a journalist. And I think it's just when I became a journalist and then I was working for newspapers, I was writing stories. And somewhere, like the next vanity was, okay, let's write a book, right? So I just thought, okay, let's, because it is okay to write short form, but long form really excites me. Putting together like 300 or 400 pages of a book, it's a very excruciating process. When it's happening, you feel like I want to get over with it. I want the book out. No, it doesn't happen that way, right? It's a very painful process, right? But when it comes together, when it like kind of then that thrill is absolutely, you know, like a few things to compare.
Lovely.
I think the pressure stayed till I was in IT. Like, in class 11, I had a big fight. I want to study commerce. No, I was told to study science. In college, I wanted to study economics or something. No, go to engineering, right? And then I wanted to like go off and do something else. No, pick up this job in IT, right? And then when I was like maybe about 27 or so, when I got into sports management, I said like, okay, enough is enough, right? Okay, now I've done enough. Whatever
Yeah.
dad wanted, now I'll start doing my own thing.
So that tipping point had reached for the family to ki
Yeah.
ab had se.
So, uh,
Yeah.
and again, like, at that time I was really pissed. Yeah. But like, why am I wasted so many years doing engineering and IT and I never wanted to do that. But I think it also kind of honed me in a certain way, right? Now, I wanted to go to St. Stephen's College. Now, if I'd got admission to St. Stephen's College, it would have been more of St. Columbus, wherein there were all the Dhurandhars who were sitting there, and then they came from all over the India, the best of debaters and quizzers and everybody, and
Yeah.
people who knew how to write and stuff like that. I again wouldn't have got into extracurriculars, but when I got into Delhi College of Engineering, it was barren. So
Mm.
I took the initiative, right, and that's how I got into it. So yeah, so eventually, it's all about uh, you can't choose many of the situations, but what you do in the situation is what matters.
That's very well put. I think that we have to make the choice, and I think you made the choice to choose the barren line and create this entire universe for yourself from
Yes.
this.
So yeah. So
Yeah. Lovely. I think on this note, we are good to give a good closure to this pre-book launch
thank you so
and
much.
wishing the best to Charlie and really excited to discover who he is and what character shades we have to explore. And I'll leave that to the readers for them to know about it. So when is the book launching if the audience wants to know?
So we're launching the book on the 30th of November,
Mhm.
right at the India Habitat Center. So you can coordinate with Karsh, in case you'd like some of the invites. We got limited invites,
Mhm.
but we can certainly share some invites.
Lovely. We would love to know more about the book and listen to another shades of this Charlie, Columbus, and then your entire world of photography travel in much more depth, maybe at
Thank you so much.
IHC.
Thank you so much.
Lovely. And on this note, love to close this conversation. And one takeaway I take from you is the incurable itch, which I think we are all born with, but somehow gets snubbed down with societal pressures. But if there is something to keep that alive or even revive that, then I think this conversation shall be a happy reminder for all of us.